Hey kids, I'm Pastor Tom, and welcome to today's edition of Calvary Kids News. Something very exciting happened this week to one of our Calvary kids. You might know Nate. He's the one who played the prelude for our Easter service on his trumpet. Well, Nate's in 5th grade, and he's an all-around awesome guy. But this week, he experienced something that I've never experienced. And frankly, I hope I never will. I asked him what happened.
So my mom and I were doing errands, and then when we got back to the car, we Purelled our hands and took off our mask, and then after 2 minutes sitting in the car, my mom saw a snake.
Yeah, that's right, a snake in the car. And not just anywhere in the car. Where was the snake?
He was right behind the wheel.
Now, that's not the outside wheel of the car, that's the steering wheel. The snake was sitting on the ledge in front of the speedometer right behind the steering wheel. And what did Mom do?
She yelled for me to get out.
Well, of course she did. Now, thankfully, a passerby had the number for animal control. But
Called, and they were closed.
of course they were. But that passerby had a son who obviously wasn't afraid of snakes. And so, armed with an ice scraper and a beach towel, he extracted the snake from the van into a safe, sealed container, I hope? Nah, he just plopped it right there in the parking lot on the grass. But
And then a few minutes later, the policeman came.
right, the police. Now, the snake had broken no laws, but who else do you call, right? So did the policeman take out his gun and shoot the snake?
No, he had like the stick, and he was trying to get the snake away from the parking lot. And at one point, it was under a car that was about to leave.
So the snake is slithering around the parking lot, being chased by a policeman with a stick, even going underneath a car that's about to pull out. And this is where Mom's true feelings come out.
My mom wanted it to be squished, though.
Well, maybe a bit harsh, but I think we can show some grace to Mom, right? Now, was the eventually captured? No.
He went under the mulch.
Under the mulch. That's comforting. Now, you may be wondering, how did the snake get into the minivan? Well, the best guess from Nate's family is that when they were transporting some yard waste to the recycling center, it was in one of the bags, and not liking being in the bag too much, it escaped. Now, how did this affect Nate? Well, he's taking it better than Mom.
Well, I was at a distance, so I wasn't too scared, but my mom was a bit scared.
It's okay, Mom. I'm with you. Because, kids, you do know that all of human history started out with a snake, or a serpent, sneaking up on a woman and telling her lies about God. In Genesis 3, verse 1, it says that the serpent came to Eve and said, "Did God actually say?" And he was trying to convince her that God hadn't really told her what was right and what was wrong. Well, Eve answered that question correctly. She said, yes, God told us what's wrong, and he said that if we did what's wrong, we're going to die. And then in verse 4, it says that the serpent told her that God was lying. You're not going to die, he said. Now, of course, Eve was right the first time. And when she and her husband Adam decided to disobey God anyway, they found out that God wasn't lying. And the world hasn't worked the way that it's supposed to ever since. But did you know that God made a promise that day? In fact, he made a promise to the serpent. In Genesis 3:15, he says, "I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." Now, enmity is a great word that means conflict. And God was promising the serpent that he was going to send someone someday who would crush his head and destroy him. And you know who that was? Yep, it was Jesus. Jesus would be the great, 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 great far-off grandson. And there would come a day when he would be bruised so badly and would die on the cross. And it would be terrible. But Jesus would come alive again to prove that even though he got bruised, the death that the serpent represented was defeated forever. Isn't that awesome? That's the Calvary Kids news for today. And you have to admit, that's pretty good news.